At the party, my wife laughed and announced to everyone, "Just so you all know, we're in an open marriage now." I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply smiled and said, "As you wish." Then I turned to her best friend and asked her to join me this weekend. When she said yes, my wife's confident smile vanished and pure panic took its place. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now let's dive into today's story. The smell of charcoal and lighter fluid hung thick in the August air. John Calder stood at the grill, metal tongs in hand, watching fat drip from the burger patties and flare into brief orange flames. The heat pressed against his face, mixing with the humidity that made his shirt stick to his back. Behind him, the sounds of family filtered through the yard. His mother's gentle laugh, his nephew's shout about something in the grass, the scrape of plastic chairs on concrete. Mapleton, Ohio didn't change much. The houses looked the same as they had 20 years ago when John was a kid riding his bike down these streets. Same fences, same trees, same neighbors who waved from their porches and knew your business before you did. This cookout was supposed to be simple. Burgers, hot dogs, potato salad his mother had made that morning. No big occasion. Just Saturday afternoon with his parents, his sister Emily, and her 2 kids. Simple. John flipped the burgers methodically, checking the char on each one. The ritual of it, the timing, the temperature, the patience, gave him something to focus on besides the knot that had been forming in his stomach since noon. Vanessa had started drinking early. Not unusual lately, but there was something different today. An energy to her movements, a brightness in her eyes that felt sharp rather than warm. She'd gone through 3 glasses of wine before the burgers were even on the grill, and now she was working on a 4th, her laugh cutting through every other conversation in the yard. "John, these almost done?" his father called from the picnic table. Frank Calder, 68 years old, still wearing his church clothes even though it was Saturday. "Old habits." "5 minutes," John replied. Vanessa appeared at his elbow, wine glass tilted at an angle that made him worry she'd spill it on his arm. "You're being so serious," she said, her words running together slightly. "It's a party, John. Relax. Just making sure they're cooked through," he said evenly. She touched his shoulder, too hard, fingers pressing, and leaned close enough that he could smell the wine on her breath mixed with her perfume. "Always so careful," she said. "Always so controlled." There was something in her tone. A challenge. A dare. John said nothing. He'd learned over the past 6 months that silence was safer than response. Vanessa fed on reaction, and lately every conversation felt like a trap waiting to spring. She drifted away, back toward the picnic table where his mother was trying to get the kids to wash their hands before eating. John watched from the corner of his eye as Vanessa settled into a chair, crossing her legs, holding court. Emily shot him a look, one eyebrow raised, a question there, but John just shook his head slightly and turned back to the grill. The burgers sizzled. Smoke rose in lazy spirals. Somewhere down the street, someone was mowing their lawn, the distant whine of the engine a steady background hum. Then Vanessa laughed, loud, theatrical, the kind of laugh that demanded attention. John's shoulders tensed. "Oh, I should probably tell everyone," Vanessa announced, her voice cutting through every other sound in the yard. "I mean, we're all family here, right? We can be honest." John's hand stilled on the tongs. "John and I," Vanessa continued, lifting her wine glass like she was making a toast, "we're basically in an open marriage now. Isn't that progressive?" The yard didn't just go quiet. It went dead. No more kid sounds. No more scraping chairs. No more anything. John felt every eye turned toward him. His mother's face had gone pale. Emily's mouth opened slightly, then closed. His father stared at the table, jaw working like he was chewing something bitter. The spatula felt heavy in John's hand. Heat from the grill washed over him in waves, but inside he felt cold. Not shock. He'd known something was building, had felt it in every fight they'd had over the past months, in every cruel comment dressed up as a joke. But standing here, with his family frozen around him, with his wife smirking at him from across the yard like she'd just won something, something clicked into place. Not rage. Not humiliation. Clarity. John set the spatula down on the grill's side shelf. The movement was precise, controlled. He wiped his hands on the towel, hanging from his belt loop, then turned to face Vanessa. She was watching him, waiting. She wanted the explosion, the denial, the desperate scramble to take back control of the narrative she'd just hijacked. "As you wish," John said. His voice came out calm, flat, final. Vanessa's smile flickered. Just for a second, something uncertain crossed her face. Then she recovered, waving her wine glass dismissively. "See? He doesn't even care. Modern marriage, everyone." But John saw it. That moment of doubt. She'd expected him to react, to fight back, to make a scene, to give her more ammunition. Instead, he'd agreed. And in agreeing, he'd taken something away from her that she couldn't name, but could feel slipping through her fingers. Emily stood up abruptly. "Kids, go inside and wash up properly. Use the bathroom sink, not the kitchen." His mother followed, shepherding the children toward the house with an efficiency that came from decades of handling family crises. His father remained at the table, staring at his plate like it held answers. John turned back to the grill. The burgers were starting to char. He moved them to the cooler side, adjusted the vents, continued with the same methodical care he'd shown before Vanessa had lobbed her grenade into the afternoon. Movement at the edge of his vision. Claire Maddox stood near the back porch, arms folded across her chest, looking like she wished she could disappear into the siding. Vanessa's friend, well, former friend, maybe, the way these things went after divorces. Claire had been coming to these family gatherings for years, always quiet, always helpful, always seeming slightly uncomfortable with Vanessa's louder moments. John had always liked Claire. She'd helped him fix a leaking pipe once while Vanessa watched and complained. She remembered his birthday when Vanessa forgot. Small kindnesses that felt genuine in a way that had become rare in his life. Claire's eyes met his across the yard. She looked mortified, not for herself, for him. John walked over, leaving the grill unattended. Behind him, he heard Vanessa start talking again, her voice too bright, trying to fill the silence with commentary about the weather, the food, anything to pretend the past 3 minutes hadn't happened. "You still helping your dad this weekend?" John asked Claire when he reached the porch. Claire blinked, caught off guard by the question. "Yes, he's replacing the deck boards. I'm supposed to help tomorrow afternoon. I could use company," John said. The words came out easier than he expected. "If that's allowed." He saw Claire process the question. Her eyes flicked toward Vanessa, who had stopped mid-sentence and was watching them now. Then back to John. "Yeah," Claire said softly. "It's allowed." Something shifted in the air. John felt it. Vanessa felt it too. He could tell by the way her face changed, the smile freezing then cracking at the edges. She stood up quickly, the wine in her glass sloshing. "Claire, can you help me get the salad from the kitchen?" "Sure," Claire said, but she didn't move immediately. She held John's gaze for one more second, and in that second, an understanding passed between them. Vanessa had thrown the door wide open, and John was going to walk through it. As Claire followed Vanessa toward the house, John returned to the grill. The burgers were perfect now, charred on the outside, juicy in the middle, exactly how everyone liked them. He plated them carefully, arranged the buns, set out the condiments. His father finally looked up. "Son, not now, Dad," John said quietly. Frank Calder nodded. He understood. They'd talk later, when there weren't children to protect, and when the words could be chosen carefully instead of flung like weapons. Emily came back outside, carrying paper plates. She moved close to John, shoulder to shoulder at the condiment table. "You okay?" she whispered. "I'm fine. John, I'm fine. Really?" She studied his face, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but call me. Anytime. I will." The family gathered back around the table. Vanessa emerged from the house with Claire trailing behind, carrying the potato salad. They ate, made conversation, avoided the topic that hung over everything like storm clouds that hadn't quite broken. But the afternoon had changed. Everyone felt it. John watched Vanessa throughout the meal. She kept drinking, kept talking, kept trying to recapture whatever control she thought she'd established. But her eyes kept darting to him, to Claire, back to him. Calculating. worried now, though she was trying to hide it. She thought she was humiliating him into silence. She thought she was establishing dominance. She thought wrong. Because John wasn't silent. He was calm. And calm was so much more dangerous than rage could ever be. When the meal ended and people started cleaning up, John caught Claire one more time before she left. "Tomorrow," he said. "What time?" "2 o'clock," Claire replied. "My dad's place on Riverside. I'll be there." Vanessa was watching from the kitchen window. John didn't care. That night, in the house they'd shared for 13 years, Vanessa tried to start a fight. "You made me look bad in front of your family," she said, standing in the doorway of their bedroom while John changed out of his clothes. He didn't look at her, just pulled on a clean t-shirt and pajama pants. "No, you did that yourself." "Oh, so now you're going to punish me?" "I'm not punishing anyone. You practically asked out my friend in front of everyone." John finally turned to face her. "You announced our marriage was open. In front of my parents. My sister. Her children." He kept his voice level. "So yes, it's open. You opened it." Vanessa's face flushed red. She was drunk, swaying slightly in the doorway, mascara smudged under one eye. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did. You're twisting this. I'm accepting your terms." John moved past her toward the guest room down the hall. "Good night, Vanessa. Where are you going?" "To sleep." "In the guest room?" "Yes." "John, come back here. We need to talk about this." He paused at the guest room door, hand on the knob. "No, we don't. You said everything that needs saying. Now we both live with it." He closed the door, locked it, and for the first time in months, fell asleep without the weight of her presence beside him. Outside, cicadas sang their night songs. The house settled into darkness, and somewhere in a master bedroom, Vanessa cried into her pillow. Angry tears, confused tears, tears that came from realizing she'd broken something she couldn't fix with apologies or seduction or manipulation. The door she'd opened wouldn't close just because she'd changed her mind. The house began to feel like two separate territories. John woke early now, before Vanessa stirred. He'd make coffee in the kitchen, read the news on his tablet, and by the time she emerged, usually around 9, looking puffy and irritable, he'd already be moving through his day with a purpose that didn't include her. At first, Vanessa pretended not to care. She started dressing differently. Tighter clothes, more makeup. She'd check her phone constantly, smile at texts she wouldn't explain, disappear for hours without saying where she was going. When she came home, she'd make sure John noticed. Keys dropped loudly on the counter, perfume strong enough to announce her arrival, stories about her day delivered in a tone that suggested they were fascinating. John would nod. "That's nice," he'd say, then return to whatever he was doing, paying bills, helping their daughter with homework, cooking dinner. The disinterest drove Vanessa crazy. "You're not even going to ask where I was?" she demanded one Thursday evening, finding him in the kitchen making spaghetti. John didn't look up from the pot he was stirring. "No. Why not?" "Because it doesn't matter to me anymore." Vanessa's face went through several expressions. Anger, confusion, something that might have been hurt. "That's cruel. That's honest." John tasted the sauce, added a pinch of basil. "You wanted an open marriage. That means I don't ask questions. Neither do you." "I never said." "You said it in front of my entire family, Vanessa. You can't unsay it now just because you don't like how it feels." She left the kitchen without responding. He heard her bedroom door slam upstairs. The next morning, she tried a different approach, tears and apologies. She caught him in the hallway before work, eyes red, makeup free, looking younger and more vulnerable than she had in years. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I was drunk. I was angry about, I don't even remember what. But I didn't mean it." John adjusted his tie in the hallway mirror. Okay, that's it. What do you want me to say? That you forgive me? That we can fix this?" He turned to face her. She was wearing one of his old t-shirts, the one she used to sleep in when they were first married. A calculated choice, he realized, trying to remind him of better times. "Vanessa," he said carefully, "I don't think you understand what you broke. It's not just the announcement. It's years of things. That was just the last one." "What things?" "Every fight where you threw something. Every time you call me boring in front of our friends. Every birthday you forgot. Every promise you broke." His voice remained steady, almost gentle. The cookout was just when I decided I was done. Done. Her voice cracked. You can't be done. We have kids. We have a life. We have kids, John agreed. And I'll make sure they're taken care of. But you and me, as a couple, that ended when you decided it did. He picked up his briefcase and walked past her, down the stairs, out the front door. Behind him, Vanessa stood frozen in the hallway, her carefully planned emotional appeal crumbling into something real, panic. John had been seeing Claire regularly since the cookout. Not dates. Not yet. Just time together. They'd meet at her father's house to help with projects, or at the park where she walked her dog in the evenings, or at the coffee shop on Maple Street where she graded papers. Claire taught middle school English. They talked about everything, about nothing. Claire didn't pry, didn't ask questions that felt invasive. When John mentioned Vanessa, which he tried not to do often, Claire would listen without judgment or commentary. She understood the complexity of failed marriages. She'd been through one herself 5 years ago. My ex-husband thought marriage was a spectator sport, Claire told him one Sunday afternoon while they painted her father's fence. He'd sit on the couch and watch me do everything, then complain when things weren't perfect. Vanessa always said I wasn't exciting enough, John replied, running his brush along a picket. Not spontaneous. Too predictable. Predictable is underrated. Claire dipped her brush in the paint can. Predictable means someone shows up when they say they will. Keeps promises. Doesn't treat relationships like they're disposable. John glanced at her. She was focused on the fence, concentration evident in the way she bit her lower lip slightly while working. She was pretty, he'd always known that in an abstract way, but now he noticed details. The freckles across her nose. The way her hair fell forward when she leaned over. The competence in her movements. Thank you, he said. For what? For not making this weird. Claire smiled. Who says I'm not making it weird? Maybe I'm just hiding it really well. He laughed. Actually laughed. It felt foreign after months of tension at home. They finished the fence as the sun started setting, painting everything gold and orange. Claire's father, a quiet man who reminded John of his own dad, brought them lemonade and thanked John for helping. You're good people, he told John. Claire needs good people around her. On the drive home, John felt lighter than he had in years. Then he pulled into his driveway and saw Vanessa's car, and the lightness evaporated. She was waiting in the living room when he walked in, still dressed from wherever she'd been, though it was nearly 8 o'clock. Where were you? She demanded. Out. All day. Yes. With her. John set his keys in the bowl by the door. Yes. Vanessa stood up fast enough to make the lamp shake. You're sleeping with her, aren't you? No. I don't believe you. I don't care what you believe. John started toward the stairs. You're punishing me. Vanessa's voice rose, sharp and accusing. This is all to hurt me because of what I said at the cookout. John stopped, turned, looked at his wife, really looked at her, and saw what he'd been ignoring for years. The selfishness, the cruelty disguised as honesty, the complete inability to understand that actions had consequences. Vanessa, I'm not punishing you. I'm just done being married to you. We're still married. Legally. That's all. The kids are upstairs. John interrupted, lowering his voice. And they can probably hear you yelling. So maybe stop. Vanessa's mouth worked, but no sound came out. Finally, she grabbed her purse and stormed past him, out the front door. Her car started with a roar, tires squealing as she backed out of the driveway too fast. John stood in the empty living room, listening to the silence. Then he climbed the stairs to check on Maddie and Ryan. His daughter's door was open a crack. John knocked softly. Maddie? You awake? Yeah. Her voice was small. He pushed the door open. Maddie was sitting on her bed, 12 years old and looking younger, her stuffed rabbit, the one she claimed she'd outgrown, clutched in her lap. You okay? John asked. Why does Mom yell so much now? John sat on the edge of her bed. He could have lied, could have made excuses, but Maddie deserved better than that. Because she's afraid, he said finally. Of what? Of losing things she didn't appreciate when she had them. Maddie processed this, her fingers working at the rabbit's worn ears. Are you and Mom getting divorced? The question hung in the air. John had been avoiding it, even in his own head. But hearing it from his daughter made it real in a way it hadn't been before. I don't know yet, sweetie, but things are going to change. They already are changing. Is it because of what she said at the cookout? Emily told me. Of course she had. Kids always knew more than adults thought they did. That's part of it, John admitted. But it's bigger than that. It's about respect. And when people stop respecting each other, it's really hard to stay together. But you still love her? John paused. That was the question, wasn't it? Did he still love Vanessa? The woman he'd married 13 years ago, who'd been funny and adventurous and made him feel alive. I love the person I thought she was, John said carefully. I'm not sure that person exists anymore, or if she ever did. Maddie nodded like this made sense to her in a way only children could understand, accepting harsh truths without the layers of complication adults wrapped around everything. I like Claire, Maddie said. Yeah, she's nice. She asks questions and listens to the answers. Mom doesn't do that anymore. The observation cut deeper than any of Vanessa's accusations. Get some sleep, John said, kissing Maddie's forehead. And if you need to talk more, I'm here. Anytime. Okay, Dad. He checked on Ryan, who was actually asleep, then returned downstairs. The house felt emptier with Vanessa gone, but also calmer, like something tense had been released. John made himself a sandwich, ate it standing at the kitchen counter, then went to bed in the guest room that had become his permanent space. The next morning, he started making phone calls. First to a lawyer, Jonathan Reeves, recommended by a colleague whose own divorce had been handled efficiently and fairly. John made an appointment for the following week. Then to his bank. He explained the situation carefully. The representative, a woman named Patricia who'd helped them set up their accounts years ago, didn't sound surprised. We see this a lot, Patricia said. I can help you establish separate accounts. Just need some paperwork signed. How long? You can come in today if you want. Takes about an hour. John went during his lunch break. Signed forms. Moved money from joint accounts into new ones with only his name. Removed Vanessa from his emergency contacts. Changed beneficiaries on his insurance. It felt clinical. Surgical. Each signature cutting away another connection until they were two separate people who happened to live in the same house and share children. Vanessa came home that evening acting different, quieter, subdued. She'd been crying. Her eyes were puffy despite fresh makeup. Can we talk? She asked. About what? Us. Please. John sighed. He didn't want to talk. Wanted to maintain the distance he'd been carefully building. But some part of him, the part that had loved her once, agreed. They sat in the living room. Vanessa on the couch. John in the armchair across from her. I'm sorry, Vanessa said. I know I keep saying that, but I mean it. I was angry about things that don't even matter now, and I lashed out in the worst way possible. Why were you angry? Because... She struggled for words. Because you're always so calm, so controlled, and I felt like I couldn't reach you, like you didn't need me anymore. So you humiliated me in front of my family? I wanted a reaction. Vanessa's voice rose, then dropped again when John's expression didn't change. I know that's terrible. I know that's not an excuse. But I felt invisible, John. Like I could disappear and you wouldn't notice. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you initiated anything with me? The last time you seemed excited to see me? John considered this. She wasn't entirely wrong. Over the past year, he'd withdrawn, pulled back, protected himself from her mood swings and cutting comments. You made it hard to be close to you, he said finally. Every time I tried, you'd find something to criticize. My job was boring. My friends were boring. I was boring. After a while, I stopped trying. I was mean, Vanessa admitted. I know I was mean, but I thought, she stopped, wiped her eyes. I thought if I could make you react, make you fight back, then I'd know you still cared. That's a terrible way to love someone. I know. They sat in silence. Outside, a car drove past. Someone's dog barked. Normal neighborhood, sounds that felt incongruous with the conversation happening inside. I went to the bank today, John said. Set up separate accounts. Removed you from everything. Vanessa's face went pale. What? You want an open marriage. That means open finances too. What I earn is mine. What you earn is yours. John, that's not. We have bills. I'll pay my share. You pay yours. This is cruel. John leaned forward, forearms on his knees. No, Cruel is what you did at the cookout. This is just consequences. You wanted freedom? Here it is. Freedom to manage your own life without relying on me to fix your problems. I don't understand what you want from me. I don't want anything from you anymore, Vanessa. That's the point. The truth of it hung between them. Vanessa started crying. Real tears this time, not the calculated kind meant to manipulate. She cried like something was breaking inside her that she couldn't repair. John watched without moving to comfort her. A year ago, he would have crossed the room, held her, promised things would be okay. But that instinct had died somewhere between the 100th fight and the cookout announcement. I thought we were partners, Vanessa sobbed. You ended that, John replied quietly, when you decided our marriage was a weapon to use against me. He stood up, walked to the stairs. Where are you going? Vanessa called after him. To bed. John, please. Good night, Vanessa. He climbed the stairs, closed his door, and felt nothing but relief when the lock clicked into place. Over the following weeks, Vanessa tried everything. She attempted seduction, new lingerie, candles, wine. John politely declined. She tried rage, screaming, throwing things, accusing him of affairs he wasn't having. John remained calm, removed himself from the situation. She tried bargaining, promises to change, to go to therapy, to be better. John listened but didn't engage. None of it worked, because John had reached a place beyond emotional manipulation. He'd found peace in the space where he no longer cared about winning arguments or saving the relationship. He simply existed alongside Vanessa as a roommate he was preparing to move away from. The kids adapted better than expected. Maddie became John's shadow, helping with cooking and yard work. Ryan, only 8, seemed relieved by the reduced tension, playing more freely without watching for his parents' moods. John saw Claire regularly now. They didn't hide it. Vanessa would see him leave on Sunday afternoons, see him come home smiling in the evenings. It ate at her. You like her more than me, Vanessa accused one night when he came in from having coffee with Claire. John hung his keys up. I respect her. That's different. What's that supposed to mean? It means she treats people with kindness. She doesn't weaponize every conversation. She doesn't make people walk on eggshells. I don't. Yes, you do. John turned to face her. Every day, every interaction. You're exhausting, Vanessa, and I'm tired of it. She slapped him. The sound cracked through the kitchen. John's head snapped to the side from the force, his cheek burning. They stood frozen. Vanessa's hand still raised, her face a mixture of shock and defiance. John touched his cheek, felt the heat, then looked at his wife with something close to pity. That's the last time you touch me in anger, he said quietly. Or what? Vanessa's voice shook. You'll hit me back? No, I'll call the police. He pulled out his phone, opened the voice recorder app. And from now on, when we talk, I'm recording. Every conversation, every threat, every manipulation. Because when the divorce happens, and it will happen, I want a record. You're insane. I'm protecting myself from you. Vanessa fled the kitchen. John heard her bedroom door slam, heard her crying through the walls. He made himself dinner, ate it calmly, then went to his room and locked the door. That night, staring at the ceiling, John made his final decision. Tomorrow, he'd call the lawyer, file the papers, start the official process of ending what had been dying for years. No more waiting, no more hoping, no more chances. Some doors don't close loudly. They just stop opening. And John was done, standing in the doorway, waiting for Vanessa to decide whether she wanted him or not. The law office of Reeves and Associates occupied the second floor of an old building downtown, the kind with brass nameplates and mahogany furniture that spoke of tradition and discretion. John sat in the waiting room, hands folded in his lap, watching dust motes drift through shafts of morning light. He'd told Vanessa he had a dentist appointment. Mr. Calder? A woman appeared in the doorway. Early 50s, professional smile, carrying a manila folder. Mr. Reeves will see you now. Jonathan Reeves looked like a lawyer from Central Casting. Silver hair, expensive suit, glasses perched on his nose as he reviewed documents. But his handshake was warm, and his eyes were kind when he gestured for John to sit. Tell me what's going on, Reeves said, setting aside the paperwork. John told him. All of it. The cookout, the fights, the separation within their own home, Vanessa's behavior, the kids, the money he'd already separated. He spoke clearly, without emotion, laying out facts like items on a grocery list. Reeves listened, occasionally making notes. When John finished, the lawyer leaned back in his chair. How long have you been married? 13 years. Kids? 2. Maddie's 12. Ryan's 8. Do you want custody? John didn't hesitate. Primary custody. Shared parenting time, but they live with me. Any concerns about their safety with their mother? No. She's never hurt them. But she's unstable. Unpredictable. They deserve consistency. Reeves nodded. Ohio is a no-fault divorce state, which makes things simpler. But we'll need documentation. The financial separation you've already done is good. I'll need bank statements, proof of income, details about the house. It's in my name, John interrupted. We bought it before we married. She's on the mortgage, but not the title. Even better. Reeves pulled out a legal pad. Here's what we're going to do. I'll draft the filing. It'll take about a week. Once you sign, we serve her with papers. Ohio requires a 90-day waiting period, during which you'll need to establish living arrangements, custody schedules, property division. How long total? If she cooperates? 4 to 6 months. If she fights? Reeves shrugged. Could be a year. She'll fight, John said with certainty. Most do. The lawyer smiled grimly. But you've done yourself a favor by separating finances and documenting her behavior. If she wants a war, we're prepared. They spent the next hour going through details, assets, debts, income, expenses. John answered every question precisely. He'd been preparing for this without realizing it, keeping records, maintaining boundaries. When John left the office, he felt strange. Not happy exactly. Not sad either. Just resolved. He went to work, an insurance office where he'd climbed from agent to regional manager over 15 years. His boss, Gerald, noticed something different. You look lighter, Gerald commented when they passed in the hallway. Filed for divorce today. Gerald paused. About time, honestly. We could all tell things were rough. That obvious? John, you haven't smiled at a company event in 2 years. And Vanessa, Gerald grimaced. Let's just say she made an impression at the Christmas party. John remembered. She'd gotten drunk, criticized the food, made a scene about the gift exchange. He'd driven home in silence while she ranted about how boring his co-workers were. Yeah, John said. About time. A week later, the papers arrived at Reeves's office. John reviewed them carefully. Every page, every clause, every stipulation. Then he signed. The process server delivered them to Vanessa on a Tuesday afternoon. John wasn't home when it happened, had made sure to be at work, but Maddie told him about it later. Mom screamed at the man at the door, Maddie reported, sitting at the kitchen table while John made dinner. Threw the papers at him, then locked herself in her room. You okay? John asked. Yeah, I'm glad actually. Maddie twirled spaghetti on her fork. It means things will finally change. No more fighting. No more mom throwing stuff. Just normal. Normal. Such a simple word for what they'd lost and were trying to rebuild. Vanessa emerged from her room 3 hours later, eyes swollen, mascara streaked. She found John in his study, organizing files. You actually did it, she said, holding the papers. Her hand shook. Yes. You're really divorcing me. Yes. I didn't think you would actually leave me. Her voice cracked. I don't know what I thought. That you'd eventually forgive me. That we'd work through it. John saved the document on his computer, closed the laptop. I told you I was done, Vanessa. Multiple times. You just didn't believe me. Because people don't just give up on marriages. I didn't give up. You destroyed it. There's a difference. Vanessa collapsed into the chair across from his desk, the papers still clutched in her hands. What about the kids? Shared parenting. They'll live here, primarily. You'll have them every other weekend and 1 night a week. That's not enough. That's standard custody. Standard? John, they're my children. And they'll still be your children. You'll just see them on a schedule instead of living with them. This is cruel. Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper. This is so unbelievably cruel. John stood, gathered his laptop. No, cruel is announcing an open marriage in front of my family. Cruel is years of belittling me. Cruel is hitting me. This is just the consequence of all that cruelty. He left the study. Behind him, Vanessa sat in the growing darkness, papers scattered on her lap, crying silently. The next months were a study in contrasts. Vanessa hired a lawyer, expensive, aggressive, recommended by a friend who'd fought her own brutal divorce. The lawyer sent letters demanding more custody time, more money, half of everything. Reeves responded calmly to each demand, providing documentation that John had kept meticulous records of. At home, John continued his routine. Cook, clean, help with homework, tuck kids in. Vanessa moved into the basement. She couldn't afford her own place yet, and the house legally belonged to both of them until the divorce finalized. They passed each other like ghosts. John saw Claire regularly now. 3 times a week, sometimes 4. Coffee, walks, dinner occasionally. They still hadn't crossed certain lines. No kissing, no declarations, but something was building. A foundation that felt solid in a way his marriage never had. Vanessa noticed. Of course she noticed. She'd see John getting ready for an evening out. Watch him check his appearance in the hallway mirror with care he hadn't shown in years. She'd hear him on the phone, voice warm and genuine in ways it never was with her anymore. It destroyed her. "You're replacing me," Vanessa accused one night, catching him before he left. "You're just replacing me with her." John adjusted his collar. "No, I'm starting over. You removed yourself from my life. I'm just filling the space you left. She's not better than me. She's different than you. That's enough. You're going to regret this." Vanessa's voice turned sharp. "When you realize she's not perfect either, when the novelty wears off, you'll remember what you threw away." John looked at his wife, truly looked at her, and saw what he'd missed before. She wasn't angry. She was terrified. Terrified that he was actually gone, that her actions had permanent consequences, that she couldn't manipulate or seduce or rage her way back into his life. "I already lived with imperfect," John said quietly. "I know it doesn't look like movies, but imperfect with kindness is better than perfect with cruelty. And Claire is kind." He left. Behind him, Vanessa stood in the hallway, arms wrapped around herself, shaking with emotions she couldn't name. The divorce progressed through the system. Mediation sessions where Vanessa tried to renegotiate and John held firm. Court dates where lawyers argued about custody schedules and property division. Depositions where Vanessa's behavior was laid bare. The drinking, the fights, the slap. John's lawyer had suggested he bring character witnesses. Emily testified about the cookout. John's father, in his quiet way, explained what he'd observed over years of family dinners. Even Claire was deposed, though she'd said as little as possible, just confirming dates and times when John had been with her. The judge, a woman in her 60s who'd probably seen 1,000 divorces play out, watched it all with tired eyes. "Why do you want primary custody, Mr. Calder?" she asked during the final hearing. "Because my children need stability," John replied, "and I can provide that. You don't think their mother can? I think she's working through some things, and I hope she finds her way. But while she does, the kids need a home that feels safe. That's what I'm offering." The judge turned to Vanessa. "Do you contest this arrangement?" Vanessa's lawyer whispered to her. After a moment, she shook her head. "No. You understand you're agreeing to every other weekend custody?" "Yes. And you believe this is in the best interest of the children?" Vanessa's voice was barely audible. "Yes." The gavel came down. 6 months of paperwork, negotiations, mediation, and hearings concluded with a single wooden knock. John walked out of the courthouse a free man. The house became truly his 2 weeks later when the title transferred officially. Vanessa moved into a small apartment near the highway. Cheap, furnished, temporary. She'd found work at a salon downtown, doing hair. It was a come down for being a housewife with a nice home and disposable income, but it was what she could afford. John helped her pack, not because he wanted to, but because it was the right thing to do. And because Maddie asked him to. "She's still my mom," Maddie said, "and she looks so sad." So John loaded boxes into his truck, drove them to the apartment, helped set up furniture. Vanessa moved through the space like a ghost, touching things without really seeing them. "Thank you," she said when they finished. "You're welcome, John." She turned to face him, and for a moment she looked like the woman he'd married. Young, uncertain, trying to find her footing. I really am sorry. For all of it. I know. Do you think, she stopped. Started again. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? John considered the question. Forgiveness. Such a complicated word. Did he hate Vanessa? No. Did he wish her harm? No. But did he want her back in his life, beyond co-parenting? Absolutely not. I think I'll forgive you eventually, he said finally. But that doesn't mean we'll be friends. Or that what happened is okay. It just means I'll stop carrying anger about it. Vanessa nodded like she understood. That's fair. Take care of yourself, Vanessa. He left before she could say anything else. Life developed a new rhythm. John had the kids full-time, except weekends when Vanessa took them. Those weekends, he saw Claire. Real dates now, dinner, movies, walks along the river. They held hands, kissed on her front porch, talked about futures without making promises they weren't ready for. You're good for him, Emily told Claire one afternoon when she stopped by. They were having coffee in John's kitchen while he was at work. I've never seen my brother this calm. He's good for me too, Claire replied. I forgot what it was like to be with someone who doesn't drain all my energy. Vanessa was exhausting, Emily agreed. I tried to like her, for John's sake, but she made it impossible. She's not a bad person, Claire said carefully. Just broken in ways she couldn't fix. That's generous. Maybe, but holding on to anger doesn't help anyone. The school year progressed. Maddie made honor roll. Ryan joined soccer. John coached the team, something he'd wanted to do for years, but Vanessa had always complained would take too much time. At Vanessa's apartment, things were harder. She struggled with the kids, unsure how to parent without John there to smooth things over. Maddie reported back honestly, not cruelly, but matter-of-factly, about dishes in the sink, takeout for dinner, Vanessa crying in her bedroom while they watched TV. Should I be worried? John asked Reeves during a follow-up meeting about finalizing financials. Is she endangering them? No. Then she's adjusting. It's hard being a part-time parent. The lawyer shuffled papers. Give it time. Time passed. 6 months after the divorce finalized, the school hosted a spring concert. Maddie played flute in the band. Both John and Vanessa attended separately, sitting on opposite sides of the auditorium. During intermission, John went to the lobby for coffee. He saw Vanessa standing alone near the windows, arms wrapped around herself, watching parents chat and laugh. She looked smaller than he remembered. Tired. Her clothes weren't as nice, clearly secondhand, clearly chosen for affordability over style. But she tried. Hair done, makeup applied carefully. Then Claire appeared at John's elbow, handed him a coffee cup. Black, no sugar. Perfect. Thank you. Claire glanced at Vanessa. You should talk to her. Why? Because she's standing there looking lost, and whatever else she is, she's still Maddie's mom. John sighed. Claire was right. She usually was. He crossed the lobby. Vanessa noticed him approaching and tensed. How have you been? John asked. Fine. She clutched her purse tighter. Working. The salon's busy. That's good. Awkward silence. Around them, other parents chatted easily about their lives. Maddie sounded great, Vanessa tried. Her playing has really improved. She practices every day. You should hear her at home. More silence. Then Vanessa noticed Claire talking with another parent across the lobby. Something shifted in her expression, not anger exactly. Something deeper. Loss, maybe, or regret. She's good for you, Vanessa said quietly. I can tell. John followed her gaze. Yeah, she is. I hate that I'm jealous. Vanessa laughed bitterly. I hate that I ruined everything and now I'm alone and She gestured vaguely. You're happy, and I hate myself for hating that. Vanessa, I know it's my fault. I know I did this. But standing here, watching you with her, seeing what I could have had if I'd just been. She trailed off. Been what? Kinder. Less selfish. Less afraid. Vanessa wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, trying not to smudge her mascara. I pushed you away because I thought you were leaving anyway. Better to control it, you know? Better to hurt you first. It was the most honest thing she'd said in years. I wasn't leaving, John said. Not until you made me. I know that now. The bell rang. Intermission over. I should get back, Vanessa said. Tell Maddie I'm proud of her. Tell her yourself. She's your daughter too. Vanessa nodded, walked away toward her seat on the opposite side of the auditorium. John returned to Claire, who looked at him questioningly. You okay? She asked. Yeah. He took her hand. I'm good. The concert continued. Maddie's solo brought the house down. Both parents clapped, though from different sections, both proud of the girl who'd survived their mistakes and come out stronger. After, in the parking lot, John watched Vanessa drive away in her aging sedan. Claire stood beside him, patient. Feel bad? She asked. A little, but not enough to regret leaving. Good. They drove separately, still maintaining some boundaries, still careful around the kids who weren't quite ready for Dad to have a girlfriend officially. But at his house, after the kids were in bed, Claire stayed for wine on the back porch. I got a message from Vanessa tonight, John said, showing Claire his phone. The text was simple. I miss my family. Claire read it, handed the phone back. What are you going to say? John looked at the message. Thought about the cookout, the fights, the divorce, the pain. Thought about where he was now versus where he'd been. Thought about doors that close and doors that open. He deleted the message without responding. Nothing, he said. There's nothing left to say. Claire nodded like she understood. And maybe she did, having been through her own version of this story. They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies blink in the darkness. From inside, the soft sound of the house settling. The refrigerator humming. Normal sounds. Peaceful sounds. John's phone buzzed again. Another message from Vanessa. Please. I just want to talk. He turned the phone face down on the table. Didn't even read it all the way through. You're sure? Claire asked. I'm sure. Because some doors don't close loudly. They don't slam. They don't make dramatic exits. They just stop opening. And John had walked through to the other side, where the air was clearer and the weight was lighter and the future didn't feel like carrying stones uphill. Vanessa would figure herself out. Or she wouldn't. Either way, it was no longer his problem. The fireflies danced. Claire's hand found his. And somewhere in the distance, a train whistle called out to the night. Lonely but free, heading somewhere new.